Today, I have a story for you guys about this emo kid who ends up crashing the school talent show. It's pretty interesting, pretty funny. I know you guys are going to enjoy it. Like the video for infinite money glitch in real life, and subscribe so I could hit 1 trillion subscribers. With that all being said and done, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. So for our subscriber, we're going to call him Carter. Carter at the time was a junior in high school, and he had a bunch of classes with this one super emo kid who we're going to call Damien. Now, Damien wasn't just emo. He was an ultra mega super emo. You know, he had black hair, tight jeans, a bunch of band t-shirts, all of that. Of course, he had the eyeliner, the black fingernails, and you would know instantly anytime Damien was around because he would have headphones on, but his music would be turned up to the max volume, and it was basically like he was just wearing speakers. Dude was always listening to some type of screamo. It would be like people yelling and screaming with some hard heavy metal playing in the background. And as Carter says, his music was turned up so much, and he didn't have amazing headphones or anything like that. He had like the skull candies. I mean, I'm sure you guys know exactly what kind of person I'm talking about. Every school had that one guy, and Damien was that guy, but just like times a million. See, not only did Damien look the part, he also acted the part. If you had a conversation with him, he was going to talk to you about how much he hated society, and he would go on and on about how he was an outcast. He was just different and nobody understood him. On top of that, pretty much everything that he owned was black. He had his black clothing, his black backpack, his black headphones, his black notebook. During school, he wouldn't even use normal pencils. He would only use his black colored pencils. And you know, this is all because he hates society. He's different. He's the outcast. Now, Damien may have thought he was an outcast to like everybody at school, but he still had a small group of friends. Now, they all, of course, also thought that they were all outcasts. They all too hated society and thought they were different. I mean, you guys get the gist. So it was lunchtime, and Carter says that there was an announcement over the loudspeaker. The secretary announced that there was going to be a talent show next week, and that they were taking applications, which you can get from the cafeteria starting today. Immediately, a huge crowd formed in the cafeteria around the applications, which were hanging up on the wall at the time. And that's whenever Damien decided to make an announcement to the cafeteria. He slammed his backpack on the ground to make a loud noise so everybody turned and looked at him, and he jumped up on the cafeteria table. "There's no point in you guys joining the talent show because me and my band already won. Our music's way better than whatever you losers are gonna come up with. Yeah, society," Damien said. And then he got down from the cafeteria table, and then one of the teachers who were on lunch duty at the time went over and started yelling at him, saying that he can't do that. And that's whenever Damien started going, "Screw you just don't like me because I'm different." And yeah, at that time, lunch was coming to an end, and a ton of people were applying to be a part of the talent show, Damien and his emo group of friends included. So Carter was actually next door neighbors with one of Damien's emo friends. We'll call her Susie. So Carter gets home from school that day, and he has a lot of homework to do and 3 tests that he has to study for. Now, Carter wasn't a slacker. He took school pretty seriously, so he wanted to get started right away to get all of his work done, which he did. He started off with doing his math homework because he says that that was the easiest. And just as he was finishing up and was about to move on to his history homework, "Nothing matters. We're all gonna die," Carter heard Damien singing next door to him. Now, this wasn't unusual. You see, Damien actually ran a band with his friends, and sometimes they would practice at Susie's house, but this had only happened a few times before, and today was really not the day for this to be happening for Carter. He had to get a lot done, and the last thing he wanted was a bunch of screamo echoing through his streets, but that's what he was gonna get. He heard, "Bring it from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4." And there was like the clicking of drumsticks, and then some heavy metal guitar started playing, the drums were banging, and Damien was screaming his lungs off. This went on all day, and now Carter was not the type of person who would go down there and like yell at them or anything. Like, he wasn't a Karen, right? Not even a Karen, really. I mean, he just didn't really want to be a bother to anybody. Also, he was on the low, kind of scared of Damien. He didn't really know what would happen if he went over there and was like, "Can you guys be quiet? I'm trying to do my homework here." He probably thought that Damien was like gonna put some curse or do some ritual on him. I don't know. Anyways, though, Carter ended up not getting like anything done because their band was rehearsing all night long. Eventually, though, the music stopped at around like 1 a.m. At this point, Carter was laying in his bed in defeat, but as he realized that they were gone, he decided to stay up and, get all of his work done. And he ended up going to school the next day on no sleep whatsoever. As Carter walked into his first class, he saw Damien and his friends, and he gave them a little bit of a look. Not saying anything directly to them, but, it was kind of a stink eye. To which Damien responded, "How'd you like the music last night, bud? We're gonna win that talent show, right?" That's exactly what he sounded like, by the way. I heard some audio recordings of it, and yeah, it's a perfect match. Anyways, Carter was kind of on his last nerve here. I mean, he had so much work to do last night, and he ended up having to pull an all-nighter to get it done because of their loud music. So Carter ended up growing a pair, and he responded to them. Told him that, yeah, it sounded great, but that he had a lot of work to do, and it was kind of distracting. That's whenever Damien said, "Better get used to it because we're rehearsing every night, yeah." Carter was ecstatic. Every night? Great. At that point, the bell for first period rang, and the morning announcement came on. After some students did the Pledge of Allegiance over the speaker, the secretary got back on, and she announced that she had the contestants for next week's talent show. She started listing off names, but at first, none of the names included Damien or his band. As more and more names called, Damien kept saying stuff like, "They're saving the best for last, guys." And he just kept anticipating his name over and over again, until eventually the secretary said one last name, and then the announcement shut off. Damien was pretty frantic at this point. There's a mistake, right, guys? They said my name, I just didn't hear it. My ears must be clogged or something. Trying to come up with an excuse for why his name wasn't called. Damien was just in disbelief that he wasn't chosen to be one of the contestants. But then he started going on about how he's an outcast, and this is just showing that society doesn't want him. All of that crap, and he just kept going on and on about it. His friends too. Then eventually he was like, "You know what, guys, we'll show them." And then all of his friends were like, "Yeah." Everybody agreeing. And then he stopped blabbing his mouth, and he put his head down, and then the teacher finally started class. He asked for everyone's homework, to which Carter handed him his. Of course, Damien and his friends never turned in their homework. They would never do their homework, nothing like that. This was actually the second year that they were repeating this grade alone, so there was that. But Carter turns in his homework along with a few of the other students. And now this teacher, he would give them an assignment, and then he would grade the homework in the meantime and get it back to them within like a couple minutes. So they were working on their assignment. Carter was on the edge of falling asleep at this point because he had gotten no sleep the day before. And that's whenever he got his assignment back, and it showed that he had failed his homework assignment. He got none of the answers right, which this was honestly a first for this year for Carter. He was a straight A student, perfect grades, so failing homework was a pretty big deal for him. He told the teacher that it was because Damien and his band were practicing all day outside of his house, and the teacher said that there was nothing he could do about it, but that he shouldn't have to worry about that anymore because they shouldn't be practicing for the talent show anymore because they aren't a part of it. And that's whenever Damien picked up his head and started screaming at the teacher, saying that he was everything wrong with this world. Anyways, that day, Carter only did good on like one of his homework assignments, and it was the easy one. The other ones he turned in, he did awful on, and he was also pretty sure that he did pretty bad on his tests, which the next day he would come to find out that yes, he failed both tests. That day he went home and he decided that he was going to be studying extra hard and paying extra close attention to all of his homework. He also wanted to get it done pretty fast so he can go to bed because he still hadn't slept at this point. So he gets most of his homework done, and then he starts his daily study session, and that's whenever, once again, he hears the screamo coming from next door. "Society hates me." Yeah, you guys get the gist. At this point, Carter had had enough. He could not go another day with no sleep, no studying, and he had already confronted them a little bit earlier about this, respectfully of course, but he still said something. So he goes outside, walks over to Susie's house, and Damien and his whole band, all of his friends, are sitting in Susie's garage with the garage door open. Carter goes over and he once again very respectfully says, "Hey man, I didn't get any sleep last night from you guys. Like I said, the music sounds great, but I really need to study today and I need to get some sleep. Can you guys please take it somewhere else?" And then Carter asked why they were even doing this in the first place because they couldn't be part of the talent show. And Damien was like, "Oh, don't worry, bro. We're gonna be part of the talent show." And then Damien was like, "All right, guys, this one goes out to Carter. 1, 2, 3, 4. They started to sing a song that was like, "Carter needs to do his homework. Carter wants to study." And they were basically just making fun of Carter in the song. And Carter just gave up and went back to his house. And he went yet another day without getting the proper studying done. And also, he didn't get to go to sleep until about 1:30 because they were up all night once again rehearsing for a talent show that they weren't even supposed to be a part of. This went on through throughout the weekend and then all week long the next week. Carter hadn't gotten a good night's sleep in over a week, and he wasn't doing so hot in school. I mean, he was able to recover a little bit, but he still was doing a lot worse than he was before. So with that, it was finally the night of the talent show, and there were all kinds of different acts. There was singing, dancing, magic tricks. One of the kids did a stand-up comedy show that was pretty funny, and then there was the final act, who was this one girl who had a very great singing voice, and she just sung her heart out, and everyone was applauding. But then the lights all turned off. The auditorium was in complete darkness, and all the kids and parents in the audience were super confused. You could hear whispers among everybody, people talking about like if the power went out or what's going on. And then suddenly a spotlight turns on, and it's pointed at Damien. He's sitting there with all his friends in the background, sitting in the darkness. They were all dressed up in their emo attire, complete with fingerless gloves, studded belts. Their hair was all styled and stuff. Damien points to one of his friends and he starts going away on the drums, and then his other friend joins on the bass. And at this point, it was super loud. It was like their screamo music that they had been practicing all the time in the garage that kept Carter up all night. And it was just echoing through the auditorium. People were plugging their ears. The microphones in the auditorium couldn't really handle it, and they were all screeching. And then if that wasn't bad enough, Damien started to do his screamo into the mic, and that was screeching too with all the music. It was just a nightmare. Everyone was in shock. Everyone was covering their ears. Some people were leaving. They couldn't stand the loud noise. And that's whenever the principal got up on the stage and started yelling at them to stop. But they couldn't hear the principal. I mean, nobody in that auditorium could hear what the principal was saying truly. You could tell that he was furious though. He started unplugging all the microphones, and then eventually it started to get quiet in the auditorium again. That's whenever the principal yelled out, "Damien, what is the meaning of all this? You guys know that you aren't supposed to be a part of this talent show." That's whenever Damien replied, "We're just showing the world what real art is, sir. We refuse to conform to society's expectations. We're showing you guys what real music is." And that's whenever Carter shows up on the stage. He grabs the mic out of the principal's hand, and at this point, he was on his single last nerve. If there was even a speck of a nerve left, he was on it. And at this point, Carter says that he just absolutely snapped. He was like, "Music? You want to hear real music? You want to see what real art is like?" And yeah, Carter took the microphone and he nicely handed it to Damien. Now, that's in quotation marks. You could only guess what he did with the microphone to Damien. And Damien and Carter both ended up getting expelled from the school, and the talent show was basically ruined. Everybody just ended up leaving, and they never got to announce a true winner. But yeah, that was the story from Carter. It kind of all over the place, not gonna lie, but sounds like Damien didn't have an amazing time.